Welcome everyone, Chris Petri here. It's great to have you coming along and painting with us here, drawing and painting in watercolor. We're going to have a lot of fun on this video. We're going to actually create this interior scene. A lot of watercolor artists you'll see out there, the pros and people that are just like, painting watercolors as a hobby. Everyone tends to like to paint some interiors because we're all, sometimes it's raining out, we can't get outside, or maybe we just want to take a break from maybe doing landscapes and seascapes and things like that, and we just want to do something a little bit offbeat or different. And interior type paintings are perfect because we have our places we live, our apartments, our houses, our homes. We can just pick a spot somewhere and maybe set up everything, and you can set up a few things and stage a few things, or you could just paint what you actually have in your place that you live. So, or you can work from photographs too. I work from photographs. This is actually from a book that I have. I have some books on architecture and things like that, so I was looking through some of those and found a good photograph to work from. And then now this is the painting that I did. I created this maybe 6 months ago or so, and really came out. I like it a lot. It came out really good, I think, for a study, for interior study. And so we're going to replicate this and do this. We'll take this, pencil draw it, and paint it using this as our reference right over here. And as you can see, I have really some simple colors laid out here. I kind of use the limited palette. This is just a tray I have left over. Most of you know I take apart my palettes sometimes and do different things with them. This is just a tray I found in my studio, and I'm just going to use that to, I don't need to take my whole palette out with all my colors. I could just maybe boil it down to a few colors that I know I used in this painting. I can look at this painting and identify the colors I used. So these are the colors I did use, and it's just basically the warm colors first, burnt umber, raw sienna here, so some raw sienna here, and then some yellow ochre. Also up here we did French ultramarine blue, cobalt blue here, and then some cerulean blue here. I think I might have put a little extra out on the palette, perhaps. I don't think I'm not going to need, I think, all that much. But I like to have a little bit extra on there just in case. And then some ultramarine violet by Winsor & Newton. So we have all those colors, which are basically a limited palette. You could really say it's kind of like a bluish, basically a blue and like a earth tones, like this, your golds and browns. You could easily just maybe use burnt umber, yellow ochre, and French ultramarine blue. If you wanted to even get more simple for your color selection, you could actually use these three colors and you'll be fine. The French ultramarine blue is the darkest of the blues that we're using, so we would use that. And then when we mix that with burnt umber, we get this really beautiful rich dark that you'll see here in little small bits around the painting. Now, I'd like to just, before we get into the drawing and painting, I just want to go over one kind of really interesting tidbit of information I think you're really going to find useful when you're going to be creating this painting. And we'll do that next, but I'll take a quick break. I'll put my paints over to the side over here, and we'll get going in just a few seconds. I just want to take that quick break here and get some things organized, and I'll be right back. All right, so we're going to get back, and again, I wanted to show you a quick tidbit that's really going to come in handy for you when you're creating this painting. We're going to go over a lot of interesting things and things that are really going to be helpful as you go to get this completed. But one of the things I wanted to mention, and it's also in my book, so I always mention to you, my book, Methods for Success, it's out now a couple years, and I have a new book actually I'm working on. And but I wanted to just mention in this book that I have created, I went through a lot of time to put in some really key information in the beginning of the book that goes over tonal values and mixing colors in my book. And this is one page where we're going to kind of do this same type of thing. If you want to check out my book, actually, you could see every single page in my book. I have over 60 paintings, beautiful watercolor, beautiful color paintings in this book that you can actually work from. You'll have years of fun working from my book and copying my paintings, working with those for your to really get ahead on the watercolor medium, because I think the best way to learn watercolor is to actually paint from watercolor paintings themselves, because then you're getting right to the direct point of what you're looking to recreate or to emulate. Versus if you look at a photograph, I would consider looking at photographs or painting outdoors, I think that's great. I think that would be more for an advanced student or someone that's been painting a couple years or so. But in the beginning, I think that's the best way to go, working from a watercolor book. And that's why I created this book, because you have, again, over 60 beautiful paintings you can work with. In the beginning of the book, I have great exercises, all kinds of good things that are basic knowledge that you need to know if you're going to start out in watercolor. And also, I mentioned I have a video down in the comment section below, a 2-minute video where I go through every single page of the book, and I just flip through the book quickly so you can see all the paintings, all the exercises in the beginning of the book, all the information quickly, so you kind of know what you're going to be purchasing. And it's a great purchase, a great price. It's on Amazon, simple as that. And I just think it's kind of like a book that any watercolorist that's starting out, or maybe a couple years into watercolor painting and learning that craft and that art, I think it's a perfect book for you. So I'm going to show you quickly that exercise. We'll make it even more simple just so that we have the idea of it. First thing I'll do is I'll just draw like four swatches. So we're going to do 4 swatches first. And this will be for the painting portion. So we have 4 swatches here. And then we're going to also pint, quart, gallon. All right, so this will be the idea and the method that we'll be looking to recreate when we're painting. So I have a water bucket over here to the right-hand side of my table. So I always have fresh, clean water, so I change my water often when I'm painting. This type of painting, maybe we don't have to change our water that much. We still want to change it, though, often, because we want to get a lot of lights, like fine-looking shadows and light washes of paint. To accomplish really good light washes of paint, we definitely need clean water when we're working. Nice crystal clear water. And we also will, again, get back to this just for a quick second. We just want to notice when we're watercolor painting, I'll take some French ultramarine blue and burnt umber. And what we'll do is we'll go with our darkest dark right here. French ultramarine blue and burnt umber, pretty much equal parts. Not that much water. You can see there's not a big puddle of water over here on my palette. So I'm using mostly like 90% paint and only a little, maybe 10% water, not much water at all. And I'm not going back into my water bucket, as you notice, with my paintbrush. I'm just going straight back into my palette because I don't want a lot of water. I want very little water to accomplish getting this really beautiful dark here. Okay, so that's what our game plan will be when we're doing our darks. We don't want a lot of water. We want actually almost zero water. We just want to use a damp brush. And then your French ultramarine blue and burnt umber, and that's how we get that really beautiful dark like that around the frame. A little bit of the wine bottle, the ice bucket here, and then a few darks here and there, little bits of interesting darks that we find along the painting. Some darks here too in the bowl here in that western scene. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about, the tonal values. So that's the darkest dark we're going to have in this composition. Then if we just take a little bit of water, add a little bit of water to that. So we just get our brush, dip it in the paint bucket, and now we're going with another swatch here, and this one's a little bit lighter. So now you can see how this one's a little lighter, not as dark. You can even tap on that a little bit with a tissue or paper towel. And then let's get a little more, maybe a little bit of yellow ochre in there too. And then I add even more water. Now, quite a bit of water. here like this. And then we can give it I'll just give it a quick blot. I want to make it lighter, like that. Okay. And this we're going to leave white. So you can have more than this for dark and light range tonal values. You can imagine you could probably do 8 or 10 of these. So you could take 8 or 10 of these swatches and line them up on a piece of watercolor paper, and then start with that darkest darkly like we did here, and then you can slowly but surely get to the white paper at the last swatch on the end and get quite a few different ranges of tonal value, light and dark. Tonal value, same as light and dark basically is what we're thinking of. So that's kind of the idea. So we want to have all those ranges of dark darks all the way to the white paper and all of the in-between. That's what kind of makes this really look fantastic. And now what we'll do is we'll talk about one more thing. And again, these are covered in my book, but I'm just going to repeat them here and kind of just, hopefully everyone will be happy to just kind of do a quick review of it. This painting is, you can really look at your paintings as, from a structural standpoint, looking at your painting, you can say, or you can look at anyone's painting and say, how much darks are in someone's painting? How much lights are in someone's painting? Excuse me. And how much medium tones are in someone's painting? You can ask those questions when you look at anyone's paintings, anyone's watercolor paintings, or even, like oil paintings and things like that. I would say watercolor tends to fall into the category of doing a lot of this kind of style, which is the very, very small amounts of darks to medium bits of darks, although you will find exceptions. It's a kind of a mixed bag what artists use watercolor. Professional, I'm saying like professional watercolors that are out there, watercolorists that are, creating paintings, they sell books, they're out there in, all kinds of, galleries and exhibitions, and they're at fairs and they're selling their paintings. You'll see that they use this kind of formula. And then we would say a quart of medium tones. Maybe that quart should be a little bit more, like this. Like that. And then gallon. A large amount. We could even take this and, we could make this a little bit larger. So we'll just make an adjustment here. And this is the same thing with your paintings. You can make adjustments as you go. But we'll just take this and make it a little bit larger. So we're going to say that this painting follows the design pattern of a gallon of lights. You can see this is generally lots of white paper and really, really light washes, mostly about a gallon ratio. If we were making a cake or making some recipes and things, we would say, oh, wow, yeah, we need a lot of the lights, the white paper, and that's a gallon. We need a gallon of that. We need a quart. Well, we need a quart of the medium tones, like, the top of the table here, the dresser, the bureau. We need some medium tones in here on the sides. We need some of that in the paint and the actual painting on the wall and different things. So, right, we're kind of just looking at the overall basic formula of what this painting is really consisting of, from just a visual standpoint. And then you have your pint of dark darks, and we can see it's just a little bit. We only needed a little pint of dark darks, and we're going to put them here and there, the frame, and a couple of shadow areas maybe for some little tiny bits of, dark darks in there too, bits of dark darks that are going to kind of just make everything, they're like the, kind of like jewelry of the painting almost too. Like you could think of the dark darks, they're almost like little bits of really nice looking accents to the whole entire composition of the painting itself, the square, the rectangle here. Okay, all right, so we're going to get to drawing next. I'll just take another quick break. I'll get reset up here, and then we'll get going again. All right, so we're going to continue here. We're going to remove this here. We could set that up, next to our table if we want to when we're working, just to kind of keep that in our mind. And this is not an extremely difficult composition or painting. It's not like the Water Lilies by Monet or something like that. This is kind of, you know, very doable for everybody. All right, so now I'll just use a mechanical pencil. Maybe I'll use a retractable mechanical pencil here. This is a number 9. And it's a softer lead. And then I'll use maybe a ruler here. So I'll use a ruler just so we can get some good straight lines for our table. And I think that would be really good to maybe use this. So let's take a look at this overall. We could even just say, let's, you know, we could split this painting in like, you know, in half this way. So maybe we could divide this and we'll make some hash marks. And again, in my book, I go over how to create hash marks on your compositions when you're starting out your drawing. So I'm just going to make a hash mark here halfway, center of the canvas. We have one here. Let's make that center line about here too. Just, you know, rough. You could measure it if you want to get really super accurate. But I've been painting a long time, so I can kind of see the halfway point, you know, close anyway, you know. The same thing too with the horizontal. We could do this center point here, like that. That's kind of the bottom of the frame of this painting in the picture. And then maybe a quarter of the way is the table there. So you can kind of see if we get a few hash marks going. You don't even actually have to use hash marks. You could take a longer ruler if you wanted to, and you can just transfer over your marks. Maybe we'll do that. I'm using a T-square ruler, and we have all kinds of rulers. I have a metal ruler somewhere, stainless steel ruler, but I think this one will work fine. We can use something like straight edges. And what I'll do is I'll just maybe line this up like this, and I'll make a mark over here like that. Alright, so that's going to be my bottom of my frame. Then I can come over here and say the bottom of the lamp is about here. So I can just come over here, line it up, kind of just see that it's somewhat straight, the ruler level across, and we can make a bottom hash mark there for the lamp. And what I'll do is just make it a little darker so you can see that. And then here with the frame, the bottom of the frame is there, kind of a dark mark there. And this way we have the frame, bottom of the lamp, and the table too. Let's make the table. The back of the table is important because that's kind of, everything has to sit forward of the back of the table, the bureau. So I'm going to do a lighter line there, but I'll do a couple darkers. That's the back of the bureau. And then maybe we'll go with the top of the lamp. So I line up my ruler there, top of the lamp, up here, top of the lamp. So we have that. And I think that's pretty good to get us started. And then maybe a couple of horizontal lines, too, vertical lines. So the vertical lines, we could say the lamp is just a little bit left of center. So we could go here if this is center. You know, maybe we go a little bit left of center. And then the lamp is, you know, a little bit above the bottom of the frame. You could also transfer the line. I would transfer the line, absolutely certainly, the bottom of the lampshade. I would move that across all the way like that and get a bottom of your lampshade, because that's really, you know, it's a lamp. It's got to kind of look realistic to what the original painting. Some things you can kind of, you know, if we draw our bull in this painting a little different, that's not going to really be a big deal. If we, you know, if the dresser looks a little different with some different details to it, that's not going to, but the lamp is actually like one of the main features of the painting, so we want to make sure we get that accurate. And then you can even say that again, the edge of this, the bottom of the lampshade over here is just a little bit left of center of the painting. So if we go just to the left of the center a little bit, and we make a mark there, just a dot, and then you can even measure it, because our paper is about the same size. So you could take your ruler and then measure the width of the bottom of the lampshade across, and that is, you could say 3 inches or 8 centimeters. So then I can use my other ruler here, since I'm going to be limited to using my, I only have so much space. So that's 8 centimeters or 3 inches. Okay, this looks like this paper might be a little bit larger. I'll go with 7 centimeters just to fit it correctly. Okay, so let's do that. Now when you get that bottom of your lampshade end to end, then you can take it and actually maybe use an eraser and erase that line just so you have it now, and then you could just make a gentle curve like this across. So you're making like a slight radius or a slight oval type shape, so that we capture that real nice oval shape where you see the front and back of the shade, and then the back too is a little bit of an oval. So you're making a very, very tight oval here like this for our lamp. That's real important. That's like one of the key things that makes the three-dimensional quality of this painting work really well. But if you don't want to get into too much detail like this, don't worry about it. Draw a straight line for the bottom of your shade and you're fine. And then you just look at the up top and say, well, if you measure and get the center point of your bottom of your shade, and we said that was 7 centimeters or approximately 3 inches if we swung around the other way. This way here, 1, 2, 2 3/4. Let's use centimeters, just makes it a little bit easier right now for what we're doing. 7 centimeters, that's 3.5. So I make a tiny dot, 3.5 on the bottom of the shade, and then I just transfer that straight up to that line we already had transferred across. So we already had this line of the top of the shade transferred over here. So now we have that, and we just draw a plumb line, a straight line up, not even a line. We don't draw the line, we just make a note of the center here is the center of the lamp here, and we just go up and get the center up here and make a dot. And then we just measure what this is over here, and this is 3 centimeters. So now I come up here, 1.5 and 1.5. So I put my 1.5 centimeters. I line that up on the center dot of the top of the shade, and I go over 1.5 centimeters and then 1.5 centimeters over here, and that gives me the 3 centimeters. And now I have the shade. Perfect. What we have here is right what we have here, and I just take the 2 lines and just transfer them down. You can see how I'm doing this. So now I'm just taking these lines. I'm going to make the lines darker so you can see them. You can make a little bit of a art like that if you want, for a little more three-dimensional quality, or you can just draw straight lines. That's fine too. And then I erase the straight line there. Okay, and that's not too difficult. It's just a matter of transferring our lines, our horizontal lines over across, just basically like we're just copying this exact right across from one side over to the next. And then once we have that, we're good. And we also will do the same for the lamp. With the lampshade, we'll do a little bit. We'll get we have the bottom of the lamp here, so that's good. And we also can take that center mark here, which we use for the lampshade. Well, we know the center of this lamp, where the lampshade is, that's going to be the center of the lamp all the way down to the very, very bottom of that lamp. So now all I have to do is take that center line and just make sure that my ruler's not tipped either way, and make sure my ruler's vertical, for the most part, pretty much vertical as we can get it. And then we make a center mark there. And then we can just do the same process. We could just measure the bottom of the lamp if we wanted to. And we say, what's the bottom of the lamp? It's 3 centimeters, the same as up top, at the very top of the lamp. So we go the same thing, 1.5, 1.5, and 3. We'll make that mark there. Tends to look a little smaller maybe, but I'll go with that. And we make the bottom of our lamp like this, and you can give it a little bit of a curve like that. And then you can just do the same thing. You can say, how high is this? You could transfer over the line here and say, okay, that's the part of the lamp that is got a kind of like a small rim to it, and then it goes in and kind of funnels up. So we'll take that, we'll look at that, and we'll say, okay, well, we can always measure that and see how wide it is. That part of the lamp is approximately 5 centimeters. So if we make a little dot on the center mark there, right there, which is, we transferred over this line here across over here. We got that line across like this. Now we just use our center line that we had, our plumb line or our vertical line, straight, perfect, dot, and then we just, again, we said that was 5 centimeters. So 2.5 and 2.5. 2 dots, 5 and 1, and we're lined up on the 2.5 on our centimeter scale here. 2.5 this way, 2.5 this way gives us the 5, and then we make a little bit of a angle like this. So now we're going to give it a little bit of a, you know, radius to it, like that. And then up here we're at the same kind of idea. We have the top of the lamp. That's about inch, 1 I would say it's, yeah, 1.5 centimeters wide. So 1.5 wide, that's about 0.75 each way. So I'll make 2 dots right where that's supposed to be. And then I'll just put the top on there like that. And then now it's just a matter of making a nice light sketch first. Do a light swing down with those 2 lines like this. And then the other ones swing down this way like this. And if we see that we need more, if we need more of a shape like this, then maybe we just come down a little more like this, straight, or more straight for a little, and then we swing out this way. And that looks more like what we have. Yeah, see, that looks better. Now we pretty much captured what we were seeing there. We kind of went too quickly to the angle over here. So if we just do that, we're better. Okay, we're good. Actually, this is, and then we just had 2 small parts to the lamp here that are the hold the light inside the lamp, and I think that's good. All right, we're going to take a break. This was quite a bit of work, but remember, the lamp is kind of it's a very important part of this painting. It's kind of like, you know, it's the largest kind of like sculptural type feature in the painting. This painting on the back of the wall, that's important too. Everything's important overall, but we just noticed the lamp is really kind of like, it looks like a sculpture sitting on top of a table. It's kind of really cool. I like that look. All right, so we'll come back in just a second. I hope you don't get worried that it's going to take forever to do this. It will not. The lamp is the toughest part. This is the most difficult part. So if you've got through this section of the drawing, you're home free now, because the rest is going to go really quick. I guarantee it. Okay, we'll be right back. And we're just moving right along here. I'm really excited. We have that lamp completed. That's really the key to the painting. And then the next thing we'll do is we'll just kind of take note of these 2 vertical lines on both sides of this composition are actually like small walls that come out from the back wall. So if you can imagine, there's a back wall here where the painting is, and then there's 2 small walls that come out. There may be 2 or 3 feet out this way towards us, and then they go out and the other way each way. So basically it's a small nook in there, And that's what we want to capture, because there are some shadows and things in there that kind of make sense if we want to add some shadows and interesting three-dimensional quality to this. So basically all we have to do is just remember that we're going to take a small we want a vertical line on each end of our composition. So this is about, we could just again take a quick note here and say, well, that's about 1.5 centimeters. So we could just 1.5 centimeters, actually it's about 1.25 centimeters, so in between 1.5 and 1. And then we'll just take that and kind of make a vertical line like so. Doesn't have to be perfectly straight or anything like that, as long as it's somewhat, vertical plumb like this. And then the next vertical lines we're going to put are over here, but they're going to be, one of them is going to be behind the bureau here. So what we'll do is, next we'll get the bureau in here. And that is, we'll use I'm going to use this ruler here, the smaller ruler, and I noticed that the table is going to be about here and go forward here. And what we'll do is we'll do the same thing again. We'll transfer over the front of the table, the bureau here. We're going to transfer that over, front of the bureau here, the top of the bureau here, and we just, maybe we go down a little bit because maybe we made this a little bit lower than anticipated, so we just give ourselves a little more room, and that's all we have to do. And then we come over here, across here, and we notice that it almost touches the wall over here, that vertical line we just put here, like that. And then we just look at this line here. We kind of notice it's about that angle. You could just slide your rule over like that to get that angle, like so. And then this one here, same thing. Let's get our vertical line over here. So this vertical line over here is actually, if we're looking at our subject matter here, and we're saying, okay, that vertical line here, that back corner of the wall is about here. So if we take that vertical line and just make it, maybe we start it here like that, and then we notice that this back of the bureau table only projects out a little bit, and then it angles forward. So we can do that. We can take that and then make our angle for the table over here, like so. Okay, so there we have it. And you can always, if you're really there's no reason you can contour draw this, preliminary sketch and contour draw this if you're comfortable doing that. I'm just kind of showing you the more like real safe and secure way to kind of get this pretty exact to what you're working from. So if you wanted to do this from another person's painting, any paintings in my book, you could use pictures from magazines, books, internet pictures that you can print off the internet, whatever it is. You can use this kind of method of take the picture, print it about the size you want to create it, then you take your watercolor paper, set it next to the finished work that you have, whether it's again printed out, book, whatever it is, and then you just work and just take it and kind of transfer it over like we're doing. We're transferring all of our lines over, and we're also using the same measurements, the same scale. So basically we're just making like a copy of it, but it takes a little more time doing it this way, but it comes out really beautifully well. So it's just a matter of how accurate do you want something. If you want a really accurate representation of what we have here, this is how we do it. And let's see, we're just going to keep going here. We have that vertical line there, that's good. We have our table now for our bureau all set up, really looking good. We can make our table now. We can just kind of get more of the details of our table, and we just notice, how thick it is, the table top. So it's kind of like an antique type table, antique wood bureau. So we have that like so. And then it's we have the two. So now we've established the top drawer area, and that's pretty much some of these lines you can make by hand. I would make so that's going to be like so. And then we have again, you can measure these in if you want. I'm going to measure these in. That's 3.5. I'll go 3.5 in. And then we'll go over here, the same thing, 3.5 in. I'll make a little dot like that, just so I know where the two drawer handles are. You can use a stencil if you want. I thought I had a stencil that had a lot of circles, but this here maybe has one that's going to be good. Yeah, so we use this one here. So you can use some stencils here. You can, basically I'm going to take this and just make it a little bit above the bottom of the tape, where the tape is. One there. One there. And I just use those dots that we have for the 3.5 centimeters in. Okay. Okay, so we have let's do our, well, maybe we'll do our bottles next. All right, so we will erase a little bit of this line here, the back of the table, just so we have, and then I'll do this freehand. So I'll do my first bottle here, and I'm just going to go up and kind of draw this and okay, so I make one bottle there, and then the next one back a little bit further, like so. Okay, two bottles. And then the ice chest here is about here, so I'll make that like so. Okay, so you work at your own pace. And then I'll take this line and transfer it across for the back of the table. Like that. Okay, so now you have pretty much, we are getting, everything's almost complete now. I'll do the label on this bottle here. Maybe I'll go right across. Like that. And sometimes you'll draw over a line or something like that. You don't have to worry. You could do a little kneaded eraser like that, just to erase a few lines if you have to. But that's good. And there's another line there. That's good enough. And okay, the frame touches the bottle there, and then it goes up. And then we notice that the frame is above the lamp, so we know we're going to have to go higher than the lamp with our frame painting. So let's do that. Let's go higher, and it is right around the center of the lamp, where the frame comes down like this. And then I'll just make a equal a line that's sort of equal, you know, to the best of my ability. I'm going to go around and just make that frame, you know, about the same thickness all the way around as best I can do it. Okay. All right, now we have the frame. Now again, don't forget, you can have fun with this, and you can change around what's in your painting and your own composition. So that's where you take artist liberty. I always mention that on my channel, and I'm hoping that you'll just have fun with it. Once in a while, you'll change around something in your paintings. If you do that, then you'll always kind of have that habit of never feeling like you're just locked into one thing, like you can only copy what you're seeing. You can always maybe change things around. So what we're going to do is we're going to change around this painting. Maybe we'll do something different inside this painting here. Okay, here I really enjoy this. This is a really cool thing. I love nature and animals and all kinds of cool stuff like that. But, you know, maybe you want to create just like a house with like some trees or something like that in this. Maybe you're not so much interested in wildlife or something like that, you know. So you can put whatever you want actually in this painting. And I would think that you would just want to kind of keep it similar to the darks and lights. So you'd want to have something that has some good darks and lights like we have here in this painting, no matter what subject matter you put into your painting. Or you can just copy just the way it is here. That's fine too. Okay, so we have that. And okay. And I think we're ready to paint. So let's take one more quick break, and for right now, just so that we can kind of let our concentration build back up a little bit, and we'll get started in just a second. All right, so we're getting back and getting started with our painting. I did mention that I wanted to make maybe a change here, so I'm going to take my artist liberty right now. I'll go in and I will type in my name, Chris Petri.com. Okay, so I'm typing in my home address for my home page on Google on the internet, and this is my website. It's like an electronic business card, basically. See all paintings, so I'm going to take a look at my paintings here, all the paintings. I'm going to see if I can find something a little different to put onto this painting here. I wanted to maybe put in another a cow or something. I know I have a couple let's see what, yeah, this, I think I'm going to do that. So I'm going to take this and go like this. Alright, so I'm going to use this now. I'm going to draw this in. So this is, my artist liberty. I hope you'll take yours too, or maybe you just want to do what I have over here. But I'm going to, you know what, let me see what else we have here. Maybe we'll do something different. Why not? Let's change things up. I do a lot of, yeah, maybe this would look cool. Yeah, that might look good. Right. All right, let's do that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is put this in the center. This is about a little bit above a third of the way across, almost a half of the way across is the ocean, the distant hills and ocean. Okay, and then I'll maybe put the ship over here. So we have a sailing ship here. Put some rigging here. And maybe we'll slim this down a little bit. I might have made that a little bit wide. I'll do this. Yeah, that looks better. Okay. And we have some reflections here underneath. Like this. A dock over here. Okay. So let's start painting. I'll use my spritzer bottle here. I'll set this up across from me. I'll spritz the paint here just a little bit. Okay, now I'll use my number 5 Da Vinci travel brush, which is synthetic. It comes with the Schmincke paint set that I use often. And I'm gonna use the alla prima method that I normally use, which is I go in and get my darkest darks first. If you spritz too much water into your palette and you feel like you're going to start out, you need more paint and less water, you can go in and blot up some water. So if you spritz your paints to get your paints activated a little bit, don't be afraid. Go in, blot up a little bit of water. You don't want too much water when you start out with the darks like we're going to do. So I do want to make a note of that. And then I have my tissue. I keep in my left hand here, just in case I have to dry off my brush a little bit as I'm painting. I can dry off my brush there. Alright, so we have some blue and black, or blue and brown, burnt umber, French ultramarine blue. That gives us a good dark. And I'm going to start going in and getting the frame in. And this is just where you have a fun time. You're going to go in and get your frame, paint it in to start with. I'm using actually Fabriano's Studio watercolor paper. It's really nice. It's got that rough texture to it. So you get a little bit of that texture to it when you're painting like this. So automatically you have some nice variations. And I'm using my, again, I cover this in my book, How to Paint Your Brush Strokes, so that when you practice your brush strokes, like I'm doing right now, when you practice the examples I have in my book, then you get used to the feel of the brush strokes you're going to use when you're painting. So right now I'm using a parallel brush stroke, left to right, like so, like that. Okay, now again, more burnt umber and French ultramarine blue. We're looking for the dark darks. We're going to do those first. Let's do the ice chest here. So you're seeing that, and now I'm going to do another left to right. And I'm keeping my hand on the paper, on the table that I'm working on. I'm keeping my hand firm on the table, and then I just take my brush and load it up with the paint, and then take it, set the brush down, and then just move on across like so, and that's it. And then I just stop short of the other bottle. That other bottle is going to be kind of light, so we just want to make sure we're keeping an eye on our tonal values. If this bottle was dark, then we could paint right straight through there. But this bottle to the right here is a little lighter, so we're going to keep that. Okay, there we go. Then this bottle here is dark as well. This bottle here is quite dark. So let's do that. Bottle next. French ultramarine blue and burnt umber. Okay, we're going to leave a highlight on the bottle there. So we leave a white highlight on the bottle there. We're going to have a white label. Okay, you can paint and adjust your bottle with your paintbrush if you think you need to. If it's too small or too thin up here, you can always add some more paint. You can draw with your brush, as they say, or yeah, basically that's an idea. That's a good idea to just have in your mind, is you can, in essence, draw with your brush. Once you have your paint on your brush and you're working, if you see something needs to be changed, you don't necessarily have to go back in and draw it over again. You can just take it and kind of draw, put it in with your brush. Okay, and maybe I'll make this a little bit smaller there, like that. Okay, and then a little bit lighter, so now I'll dry off a little bit of the water, and we'll make a lighter tonal value over here. I dry off my brush, and then you can see I will leave another highlight on the bottle there, and this bottle is going to be lighter in tone. Tonal value is lighter. Alright, so you can see we're building up our darks first. That's kind of like the fun part of painting alla prima, like we're doing. You're going in and getting your darks first. Now, I want to do this boat right now in this painting, but I just painted this here and I don't want to rest my hand in this part of the paint here. So I'll come over here and work a little bit on the bottom of the lamp, like this. Maybe I'll start picking up a little more of the gold, like that. Maybe I'll put a little bit of gold over here too. So I'm taking some of that yellow ochre and put that into the other areas here too, since I'm adding it here. We did have a little bit of darks up here. Like that. And then here like so. And we have a little bit of shadowing under here, so I'm going to keep working the darks as I kind of usually, that's my game plan when I do alla prima, which is painting everything at one time. I'm not really using glazing technique or anything like that. And I just go across here and get that dark shadow under there, like so. There's some darks over here too, so I'll start to work over here a little bit, trying to get these darks here. And I think that's right where I see the shadow sort of go back this way, like so. And then there's some more shadow up here. Rinse off my brush, dry off a little bit of the water, and try to just smooth out this shadow over here a little bit. But I did notice there's some shadow over here, like so, on this wall. And maybe we won't, I know when I did paint this originally, I took a little more time with the shadows, but let's fire them in and get them in. I dampen up my brush with some fresh water and just try to there's some shadows over here too on this back wall. So now you'll see, now you can see I'm doing the lighter washes. So we started out really with the very dark darks. Now we're going into the middle tones. And then again, we did talk about that in the beginning, how, you know, your painting's going to have a variation of darks in medium tones, tonal values, and then lights in white paper. So you're just looking to kind of focus in on when you start with getting in all the darks first for the most part, and then you start working your middle tones. Dark and middle tones, and then you're leaving certain areas white paper, which would be the lampshade, and most of this lamp is actually white paper, and the walls are mostly white paper. So you'll kind of see you're going to be using this mostly, and these two most times. Most often you'll be leaving lots of light. Okay, and A couple of splashes to have some texture here. I'll put a couple of splashes on the painting just to get some texture, like that. You can lift up sometimes too. If you think you had too many splashes, you can just lift a few up here and there. Okay. And I notice this is we have some tonal value there, kind of those mid-tones. And you'll always recall that watercolor does dry a little bit lighter once it dries, so if it looks a little bit dark, you don't have to get too worried. It will dry lighter. So when your washes dry, they'll be automatically lighter. And then we'll do this over here. We have some more medium tones there, like that. Okay, looking good. We will leave the lampshade as it is. We will make a little bit of a tone back here under the lampshade on this side, like that. And I think all right, this is dry now, so the bottle areas over here are nice and dry. We'll go in and get that darker dark here for the for that sailing ship. And there's a little bit of a dark over here for the docks over here, like that. And maybe we'll do a little bit of a lighter tones there for the masts and the ringing. A little bit of cerulean blue back over here. And you'll see I'm putting some watercolors, some actual feeling of water. Okay, I'll take the paper, wet the paper a little bit with some water up here and around the shade. I'll put a little bit of a damp line next to the shade so that if I do put some wash onto this area here, it's not going to infiltrate into my and we'll have some more purple too. Let's do a little bit of purple there. So you can add a little more color to your painting too if you want to. I kind of kept a simple color scheme, but you can definitely add more color variety within the colors that we have here. I wouldn't start adding other colors. I would say try to use these colors here. You can still get a lot of variation with these colors here. A little bit of gold along the bottom here. Okay, there we go. So we have a little bit of extra fun here by changing and taking some liberties and changing around maybe our painting. You can do that. We'll do a little bit of shade and shadow over here for this, for the lamp. We have a little bit of that golden color here for the top of the table. And then we continue with just making some, I would use the texture of the paper now to kind of give you that antique kind of feel to the bureau here in the drawers. And you can notice that I'm picking up the pace a little bit here. I don't want to take 5 hours to do this. I know you could take your time at home though. If you're home and you're in your studio, your place, your kitchen, your living room, dining room, wherever you like to paint, your den, porch, you might have whatever place you like to paint. Don't have me rush you. I'm just saying, I know some of you are very busy, so you want to try to get your painting in, your painting time in and kind of cover what we're doing here, in a decent amount of time, and we don't want to be working for 10 hours on one video. So that's why I kind of take the idea of trying to move a little quicker. Like I said, this one took me about 2 to 2.5 hours, I think, and I don't believe we've been working so far that much time at all. So, and I think we'll just get in some more shadowing back here behind our bottles like this, and the ice bucket like that. So we're just putting in some shadowing. There's some shadowing over here you can put onto the wall, and this gives it some three-dimensional quality. You could use a larger brush if you want to cover more area. So I'm just trying to cover some area here, move along at a decent pace. I like to mix up the color a little bit, get a little bit of cool, a little bit of warm and cool everywhere. That's kind of like my motto. If I'm always putting warm and cool everywhere, you can't go wrong with that. So that's why my shadows are going to be warm and cool. So a little bit of warm there, maybe a little bit of purple and blue for some coolness. Like that. A little more shadow over here maybe. All right, and I think we have done a really good job here, and I know you've done a good job where you're working right now at your home, your place. You're happy with your painting so far and your drawing, and we can do a few more things, but we would probably we're going to just come back in 1 minute after this dries for maybe 5-10 minutes, or we could use a blow dryer and kind of dry off a little bit here if we want to. I'll just do a little bit of, just a touch of detail. I think what I want to do is do a little bit of the label, a little bit of that fine detail to the label here, just to give us a little more detail there. I'll put on the cube, the top of that ice bucket here. We're going to put one of those little tops on there, those little square, looks like an ice cube on the top there. We'll put a little more detail onto these drawer handles here. Maybe a touch of some dark under this lamp here for the shadow there. But other than that, I think everything else is looking really good. All right, so we'll come right back in a second or two and just finish up these final details. It'll maybe take us another 5 or 10 minutes and we'll be complete. Okay, so we're going to finish up again. You can always put that in the back of our minds. We like to have that idea that when we're creating our paintings, we take it, we get it completed pretty much to the final, stages of the painting, and then we step back and then we say, okay, now we'll just do the finishing touches of things and just touch up a few areas that we notice we should actually maybe put a few extra bits of detail in, or something that we may have left out. And you look around and I can tell you right away, before we took a little quick break there, we just noticed we wanted to go with a few things, so we'll cover those things right now that we said we wanted to do. All right, we definitely said we wanted to add the top of the cube here to our ice bucket. Like that. Looks good. And what else did we see? Oh, we wanted to add some of the details of the wine bottle here. So we can do that. We can take and for these details, I would just do a little bit of scribbling. Maybe like that. You can always take a tissue or a paper towel and then also lift up a little bit, maybe. Like that. Yeah. So that you have a little bit of a tone under there now. So now you have a little bit of some details there. You can dry off your brush like so to take off some of the paint. You don't want too much paint on here now. And then you can just do a couple letters, maybe, pretend you're just making a label. There might be some little bit of label writing here and there on the top, maybe a couple things like that, and that's good. And what else? We said we might want to, I did want to add a little bit of a darker dark up here. To the boat. I thought that boat needed to be a little bit darker. Maybe the parts of the frame we should make a little darker. That looks good. A little bit of a shadow we set under here, under the lamp. Like that. Burnt umber and French ultramarine blue again. Dry off a little bit of the paint, just so you have a tiny bit of paint. And we'll just put a little more of a detail here for the drawer handles there, like that. Okay. We could add a little more texture here. Maybe some texture along here. I'm just going to drag this damp brush. It has maybe a little bit of yellow ochre in there too. Yellow ochre and some of the French ultramarine blue and burnt umber. And then I take my brush, dry off a little bit of the paint, and then maybe just to get some of that like distressed look or antique look, you can drag that brush along there and get some more details to it. Like, you can add some more texture and a little more tonal value range, have a little more interesting texture to the bureau here in the drawer. And dip a little bit of water in there, get it a little more water. Sometimes you have to add a little more water. Dry off a little bit on the tissue. Be careful to not add too much water. Better off to dry your brush off a little bit before you start going in and adding some of that extra textured paint, because you can always add a little more water, but it's hard to, once you put on a lot of water onto your paper, it's hard. You can always lift it up too. So let's say we added too much water and we started doing this. Well, you can always go in quick and just blot up like that. So if you add too much water, no worries. You just blot it up quick. That's why I always have a tissue on hand quickly. I can do some quick, fast lift up of some paint here and there. But you'll see we just definitely wanted to add some little more detail to this. I hope you enjoy doing that too as well. And I might take a damp brush with clean water and maybe just soften up a couple lines. So you can go back in with fresh clean water and soften up some areas if you want. If you think there's too much of a hard line somewhere where it looks too much like it's like it looks like a line versus a shadow. So you can do that. See how we did that? You can soften up a few lines. Maybe I'll do a tiny bit of to the lampshade, just a little bit of tone on there, but not much. I leave it pretty much white. I think it's better off just white. But now you can see we've accomplished this. We've taken this entire beautiful painting, transferred it over, created another. We did some artist liberty. We changed around to a beautiful, something different. You might like boats, and you might not like, like cattle or western scenes. Fine, you could change that around. You could do anything you want in this photo, this painting here above the bureau. It's up to you. But I think we've done a good job of this here. We've pretty much got everything. Maybe a little shadow over here. There might be a little bit of shadowing we could add a little bit, something like this. We can put a little shadow under here. And what's interesting about doing interior paintings like this is a lot of times the light's coming from all different directions, so you don't have to be too particular about your shadows. You can add some shadows, that suit yourself, but you always want to, most times you're going to look and kind of study your, whatever you're working from, photograph, picture in a book, online pictures. If you're working in your own home, and you're using some of your rooms that you might have where you want to do a painting of one of your rooms in your house, your home, your place, you could do that. You could take a picture of it and then work from your phone or your iPad or your computer screen, like your laptop or desktop screen. So you have a lot of options as far as what you're using for your subject matter, but this is a really effective way of kind of really getting a real exact to-scale painting of something that you want to recreate. So it's just a matter of, if you have a printer at home, you can print any picture, print it, the size you want it, and then you take that, put it down, and then you put your watercolor paper next to it, and then you just, again, like we did in the beginning, you transfer those lines over, you measure a little bit, you take a little bit of time. It's going to take a little bit of time, you just go real slow and be methodical about it. You just know you're going to have to take some time. You might have to break it up a couple days. You might want to work on the drawing for a few days or something like that, especially if you're going to maybe recreate a really larger drawing or painting. You might want to take some more time. Totally up to you, but I hope you did have fun kind of learning the process of how you can actually do some transfer work and work with a ruler and some measurements, and you can really get things really nice, really good, transfer of information from one bit of subject matter to your paper, to your watercolor paper and your composition, and really this works across any type of subject matter you want to work with, whether it's photographs, again, books or magazines, pictures on internet, on your phone, home computers, anything like that. This works really well. Great way to do it. All right, so we had a fun time. We're going to see you on the next video. I hope you'll subscribe and give me a thumbs up too. I hope you give me a thumbs up, if you had a good time, you enjoyed this process and this tutorial. And again, I hope you'll subscribe. This way you don't lose us, especially if you're just starting out here. It's great to have you if you're just coming by for the first time, or maybe your first couple times here. If you subscribe, all it does is just basically the next time we make a new video, which is on a weekly basis, you'll just get a little bit of a notification on your YouTube channel. You won't get any calls or emails or text messages or phone calls or anything crazy like that. It's just YouTube wants you to, be aware of new content that's coming out from the people that you want to watch. So if I'm an artist that you want to watch on a regular basis, when you hit subscribe, YouTube will just let you know when you open up YouTube next time. You'll just see like a little notification saying Chris made a new video. That's all it is. Nothing too complicated. All right. So great again to work with you. Have a great evening, great afternoon, good morning, and we'll see you soon.